Uh-oh, white dude shooting a car video. This can't be good. Relax, it's okay. I'm one of the good ones. And please, I know that it comes from a good place, but no comments saying, oh, it makes me so nervous when I watch people making videos while they're driving. I wish you would just pull over and park somewhere. Relax. I know what I'm doing. I'm watching the road. Not right now, but generally speaking, I'm watching the road. I'm an excellent driver. I have absolutely no doubt in my mind that I'm going to be able to shoot this video safely without causing any kind of accident, without any... Oh, Jesus Christ! Gotcha. Settle down. It's going to be fine. I'm just driving around thinking about the complicated emotional relationship that I have with where I'm from, with where I live. As most of you know, and as my hat kind of gives away, I am from Maryland. And if you know a little bit about Maryland, but you're not from here, you probably know that in terms of our presidential politics, in terms of presidential elections, Maryland is one of the bluest of the blue states. We almost invariably deliver our 10 electoral votes to the Democratic candidate. But if you're not from the state, or you don't know a lot about it other than the fact that you watch YouTube videos by some dipshit who wears a Maryland flag on his hat, you might not realize that the state is blue because the major population centers in the state, Baltimore and Annapolis, the state capital, and the regions surrounding Washington, D.C., are all reliably and heavily Democratic, and they lean progressive. But I don't live in any of those places in Maryland. I live in Western Maryland, and Western Maryland is as red as it gets. This is Republican country. This is Trump country. And you cannot drive any significant distance through this part of Maryland in an election season without seeing sign after sign after sign for Republican candidates. And of course, nowadays that means Trump signs, Trump flags. Even though the election is over, there are still a ton of Trump signs and Trump flags, including some quite vulgar Trump signs and Trump flags, which, you know, I'm not offended by the vulgarity. I'm not offended by the profanity. I am offended by the cause in which that profanity is being deployed. But I have a complicated relationship with where I'm from because I love Maryland. I love this state. I love its natural beauty. I love a lot of the people who live here. I love a lot of our government policies. I love the fact that we are a very pro-LGBTQ state. We were one of the first states to legalize same-sex marriage, even before the Supreme Court legalized it nationwide. We are a very diverse state. You know, we're a very progressive state, and I admire that about us and love that about us, but at the same time, I'm surrounded by people who are vehemently opposed to all of that. And there are times when I love the state of Maryland, but I hate the part of Maryland that I am in. But then, when I think about it, and I get a little more philosophical about it, I think, you know, maybe I shouldn't hate it so much. Maybe the fact that I live in a red part of a blue state is something I should be grateful for. Because I can take Maryland as a microcosm of the entire country. And that extends to people's political ideologies. And maybe instead of being resentful of that, or feeling like I'm stuck in this area of the state where I'm surrounded by Trump voters, I should be grateful for it, because it's a reminder to me that these people are real. They exist. I think sometimes we on the left, we who are more progressive, we get into our, we have our bubble just the same way that Trump voters have theirs. I think ours is, generally speaking, more benign and more tolerant of information and visitors from outside the bubble than theirs is. But nonetheless, we can get lost in our echo chambers just the same as people on the right can. And the effect that can have for us is that it can leave us kind of shell-shocked when we're forced to deal with reality from outside the bubble. We spend a lot of our time listening to like-minded people, watching like-minded people, talking to like-minded people, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's completely natural and completely healthy to seek out people who agree with you and see the world the way you see it. That's not a bad thing. But if you do it too often, when you are confronted with stuff from outside your comfort zone, that can be jarring, and you can even sometimes have difficulty believing it. I feel like there's an assumption, whether we realize it or not, among people who are of a more progressive worldview, that the people who vote for Donald Trump, the people who support Trump and Republicans in general, that, well, they must have these really mysterious, impossible to quantify reasons for doing it, because they can't possibly be in favor of the things he's in favor of, right? Like, it can't be, there must be something about him or something about what they think he's promising them, or they think he has the ability to deliver for them, that allows them to overlook his bigotry and his authoritarianism and his xenophobia and all of the things that to us make him completely unfit. And we see those things and we're just absolutely put off and horrified by it. But we think, well, the people who vote for him, well, they must see those things too, but they find ways of overlooking it. They have some reason that it's just impossible for us to grasp. But it allows them to look past it and to vote for him anyway. When I think the truth is more like, it's not that they're voting for him anyway, it's that they're voting for him because of that. It's not something that they have to find an excuse to overlook. That's the appeal of him to many of his supporters. They like the fascism. They like the cruelty. They like the intolerance and the bigotry. That's what brings them in. They've been waiting, many of them, for their entire lives for a candidate to come out and say these things out in the open, because that's how they feel too. They're just as bigoted as he is. And it's not just a few of them. It's a lot of them. And living in this part of Maryland and seeing the Trump flags and seeing the signs and seeing the gross, vulgar expressions of that bigotry, of that hatred, of that grievance, of that lust for revenge against whatever and whoever they think has done them wrong, that is a really important and really helpful reminder to me of what it is and who it is we are actually dealing with here. Oh my fucking God! I parked because I wanted to. Okay? So, back to the idea of having so many Trump supporters around and that being a good thing. I mean, it is, because it does keep me honest. It keeps me aware of the reality of the situation. It helps to strengthen my resolve. But there's another side to it as well that is a little bit more positive, because, like I said, Maryland is a blue state. So even though I feel surrounded and even though I am surrounded by Trump supporters in my region, if you zoom out to the entire state, I'm actually not surrounded. There are plenty of people who feel the way I do, who agree with me, who see the problems of this country the way I do. There are, in fact, more of us than there are of them, even though in my immediate area, it feels like the other way around. And I think in that way, Maryland is a microcosm for the country as well. And I admit this may be wishful thinking on my part, but I really believe that there are more of us than there are of them, not just in Maryland, but in the United States. The problem is that a lot of the people on our side don't vote, don't see the point of voting, are really, really difficult to motivate to actually take part in the electoral process and help us to actually win elections and defeat people like Trump. But you know what? I would rather have that problem with people on our side than not have those people on our side at all. And that's really encouraging, knowing that the numbers are on our side. It's just an issue of turnout and motivation and convincing people that it's worth taking part, that it makes a difference, that their contribution is needed and wanted and matters. That's encouraging. That really helps. That's one of the good things about living here and knowing what the political demographics are of where I'm from. Because, yeah, I can drive around and see just endless Trump signs. But you know what else I see? If I drive around long enough, I see a pride flag hanging from somebody's porch or hung in somebody's window. Not very often. It's the exception, but they're out there. They're here. They're right here. I see Harris Wall's yard signs. I see various sort of anti-Trump, anti-Republican yard signs or flags that indicate that the people that live in that house, they're people who recognize the problems in this country, the threats and the perils we face, and are just as concerned about it and hopefully just as determined to do something about it as I am, and as most of you are. So that's the gift that living in this part of the state gives to me. Yes, it does tell me indisputably that those Trump supporters, the ones that don't have to look past his fascism and his intolerance, but that actually run towards it because they believe that too and they want that too, those people are out there. They are real. They are numerous. They are here. But you know what? They're not the only ones out there. We're real. And we're here too.